Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healing Hour. Having some technical difficulties today. So hopefully you catch this. If not, this will be posted on my YouTube channel at Timeless Therapist. Subscribe. Welcome to another Thursday. Last week was Thanksgiving, so we did not meet. I was eating and hanging out. Actually, this time last week, I was probably watching the parade and not doing a whole lot. So hopefully you all had a nice, relaxing holiday. I think my partner in wellness is having some technical difficulties and some power issues today. So I apologize that we are way behind schedule. But I am trying to still get the message out to you with some encouragements from my friends. And I have a lot going on today. And so for anybody that's following me, I am speaking in the Neuroglamming Summit today from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I know my buddy Jason forehand at HR4U had some free tickets to give away. So if you want to catch me later today, get up with him and grab your seat. I will try to do my normal things today. I'm really out of sorts since this is all not the way I was planning to do it. So bear with me, people. As I get myself situated, I'll do my check-in, I'll do my 3 deep breaths, and then I'm going to roll through our information today because I have something to do right after this and I don't have nearly as much time. So I am busy. I have been busy this week. I feel like I'm just jam-packed every day. I am out of town this weekend for work, and then I leave next week to go on vacation. And I will be out until like the week before Christmas. And then, the holidays are just crazy. So I'm feeling like kind of all over the place. But getting some things accomplished today and this week, and slowly but surely checking those things off my list. That's where I'm at this morning. Where are you at? Check in with yourself. I am 75% present. We'll see if I can get to more like 100% after I take my deep breaths. I'm going to have to, drink my water, drink my coffee. So as a trauma-informed practice, deal with yourself, right? Like make decisions. You need water, you need to get up, you need to stretch, you need to do something. Do that now, do that throughout your day. Try to drop in and check in with yourself about like what you need, how you feel, what's going on. And so that you can address that in the best possible way. Let's take 3 deep breaths and then dive into some suicide prevention information. You can take them with me. Here we go. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Again, in. Try to extend your exhale. Okay. That always like kind of puts me back in a space where I'm not talking so fast at you guys. And still drinking my coffee from 9:30 this morning. Okay, let's see if I can manage from here. Give me a sec, guys. Look at me go. Okay, so I'll be in this little tiny square over here as I share my screen with this information. Suicide prevention stuff today. Okay, I'm just going to read this right here as it is. Holiday season is not jolly for everyone, and suicide rates rise during the holidays. My position as a psychotherapist for the last 15 years has afforded me the opportunity to work with so many different people, so many different kinds of people in the one-to-one space. And one of the things that I just personally find super interesting about people is what they do for work. There is just such a wide variety of things out there beyond like the traditional what you think. And I've had a couple of clients over the years that were death investigators, and those were some interesting people with some interesting jobs and some interesting situations. And I sort of learned through them, and then of course through other research and things that anybody can find nowadays, is that suicide rates go up around the holidays. And they tend to go up in the colder months anyways. for probably a lot of reasons. There's less sunlight, people become more depressed. A lot of people don't like the cold weather, they're stuck inside or they're not doing as much. If we're not going outside as much, we're not getting as much vitamin D, and that can have an effect on our mood. As well as, it's complicated. The holiday season is often complicated for people. Myriad of emotions, sometimes a lot of loneliness, or a lot of stress, whatever it might be. It's not always great for everybody, and we need to keep that in mind. And this might be the time that we need to keep that extra in mind. Like, you might be moving through the holiday season in this wonderful, joyous space and holly jolly and great, but don't get so stuck in that you have blinders on to maybe what's happening with the people around you or people in your life or what you see, because you could be a really important person for somebody, especially in recognizing if they're struggling or if they are demonstrating some signs of potential suicide. So let's talk about what that looks like. Okay. 3 main signs are what we're going to talk about today for suicide prevention: talk cues, mood cues, and behavior cues. While there isn't a single cause for suicide, there are risk factors and signs to look out for. I'm sort of waving them and labeling them as this red flag. And some of those which indicate a higher likelihood of a suicide attempt with recognizing some of these cues. So talk cues, things a person may talk about if considering suicide, and certain things a person may say that indicates a plan for suicide. And we'll go into some more details in a minute. You guys know I'm going to have more slides. Next, mood cues. People considering suicide often display certain moods. There are some things that we can look out for. Do you know what they are? You will by the end of this, so hang in there. Behavior cues. What behaviors to look out for, especially if a person has experienced a painful event, loss, or change at any point, and most especially if they've experienced a painful event, loss, or change recently. This can be difficult for somebody. This could potentially lead them further down this path if they've experienced something painful or difficult recently. And or reminders of these painful things can also prompt somebody to consider or follow through with suicide. Talk cues. Okay, these are the things you can kind of look out for. This is short and sweet today, guys. It's going to be extra short and sweet as I move through this and we have less time. But it's also short and sweet in that I want you to get the main information and not get bogged down by a bunch of details that you might not remember. So there are some pointed things that you can pay attention to. And no, this isn't going to make you a suicide prevention expert. And it may not lead to anything, but hopefully it just brings a little bit more awareness, and just that you can pay attention maybe if these red flags come up and somebody somebody you care about, friend, family member, somebody at the gym, an acquaintance, anybody, somebody you work with, like you might notice some of these things, and then you will be better equipped to maybe help that person or save that person as you are looking out for these things or notice these things because you know them now. So if a person talks about being a burden to others, feeling trapped, experiencing unbearable pain, that's including emotional pain or physical pain, there's no distinction there, having no reason to live, if they talk about killing themselves, if they talk about seriously hurting themselves, these are cues. We don't want to just explain these away of like, oh, it's just talk. Well, talk leads to action a lot of the time. And if somebody's talking about it, then it's likely they want somebody to hear it. And so if they're talking about it and you're the person that hears it, then I would behoove you to do something about it. Ask some follow-up questions, see if they need more support, ask them if they are connected to mental health treatment, maybe help them navigate that. Find some other ways to support them. Ask them what would be helpful and supportive for them. Pay attention to these things, though. If a person is saying, oh, I'm such a burden to other people, People would be better off without me here. I just feel stuck and trapped in this situation, this circumstance, this shitty thing, this stressful thing, this thing that's not changing, this thing that did change and I don't like it, whatever the case may be with feeling trapped. Of course, experiencing unbearable pain. This includes emotional pain, guys. Like I've always said, as a person with CPTSD, a lot of times I carry around a bunch of emotional pain. Other people can't see it. I look like I'm functioning just fine. If you talk to me, probably I sound like I'm functioning just fine. Unless I'm talking about the pain that I'm carrying around. And there's a lot that you can't see with people. So let's not discount emotional pain as being something that's unbearable for people. And I apologize, guys. And this situation, I don't think I can see anything in the chat as I go. So if you're here, great. Please drop them in the Facebook group or let me know or send me a DM. I'm happy to follow up with anything. And I apologize that I can't shout out or answer anything live. But since I'm using a different streaming today, I don't have access to all my same things. But, I'm still here and I'm still here after the fact. And so if you have more follow-up questions, hit me with it. You guys know where to find me on LinkedIn. And anybody that reaches out to me, that if you're genuinely reaching out, I'm genuinely going to respond back to you and give you an answer to the best of my ability, whatever that might be. Okay, those are talk cues. Mood cues. If a person displays one or more of the following types of moods or changes, maybe in mood: depression, agitation or anger, irritability, anxiety, loss of interest, humiliation or shame. Now you might say, let me get to number 3 in a minute. Let me talk about the things in box 1 and 2 first. And you might be saying like, well, this isn't different for them, or they're depressed all the time, or they're anxious all the time, or how will I know this? And I think we will know this. Like, I don't think this is just because I'm a mental health therapist, but I can tell if somebody's depressed. I can tell if somebody's anxious. I can tell if somebody's irritable. I can also tell if somebody is maybe experiencing shame or in anger. There are things that we can look out for. And with some common sense and maybe like a little bit of emotional intelligence, we can all recognize like these different moods. Particularly if this is people that are close to you. Like if you're noticing this or noticing a higher degree of this or higher intensity, or more pronounced depression, agitation, anxiety, irritability. These are red flags, right, guys? Like that's why I have this up here, red flags. And this here. Yeah. Stop and pause and ask some questions and be curious and be considerate and take an interest in people. And I think our natural tendency is to like move away people that are in a difficult mood space, depressed and not fun to be around, irritable and angry and not fun to be around, anxious and not really interested in much of anything and hard to be around. And so, especially during the holiday season, we might just move away from people that, are in one of these mood states or in like a negative headspace or grumpy or Scroogey or whatever you want to say. And I'm going to encourage you not to do that because that's even more difficult for somebody who's in this space. And instead of coming from the place of like, well, it's going to ruin my holly jolly mood, maybe we could just extend a little bit of compassion and concern for somebody around us that is, like I said, not in a holly jolly mood. So instead of thinking that it's going to negatively impact you, that they're not in a good space, maybe we could reverse that and think that you can influence or impact them to be in a more positive space by interacting with them instead of avoiding them if they are in this kind of mood. I can't tell you how many times somebody like has told me I'm difficult when I am really anxious about something or irritable or not in a good headspace. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure I'm difficult, but that doesn't mean I need to be alone. That doesn't mean I want to be alone. That doesn't mean I want people to ignore me or avoid me or not include me. I want somebody to have compassion and fold me in, even though I'm not in the best of spaces. I think we have to release some of the expectation that people like be in a good, happy mood all the time for us to spend time with them or be there for them or hold space for them or care about them or show them that we care about them. We need to level up a little bit in this, guys. And if you've seen any of my post content this week, you know that I'm talking a lot about leveling up our skills in emotional intelligence and resiliency, and recognizing our own toxic behaviors and how maybe we leave people out or ostracize them, like in our own stuff, and finding ways to really be more open with ourselves and others. So look out for these moods, particularly if it's a change in mood: depression, agitation, anger, irritability, anxiety, loss of interest, humiliation, or shame. Okay, now let's get to this last one. All of a sudden, if somebody is feeling relief or improvement. So this is if somebody has been in one of these states, right? Depressed, agitated, anxious, low, not having interest, and then all of a sudden they're feeling better. Um, this is a red flag. And I know most people would be like, oh, that's great, they're doing better. But a lot of research, and then in my own experience for all the years I've been in mental health treatment, often this will happen. There will be an upswing in energy and mood, and that gives individuals who have been considering suicide really the motivation and the energy to follow through. So it actually can be like a really scary time if we know somebody has been in sort of a bad space or a bad headspace, and then all of a sudden they're feeling relief or improvement. This could mean that they now have motivation and drive to follow through with whatever their plan was to hurt themselves or kill themselves. So we need to be paying attention to that. So if they have been in, what we would say is a more negative mood, depressed, angry, irritable, and then there's a shift and they're all of a sudden feeling better, maybe want to stop and ask that person some questions about that, because that's really when a lot of times we see the follow through. And I know that most people probably won't think about that. And let me also disclaimer: I'm not a medical provider. I'm not a prescriber. I am not trained or qualified to prescribe psychiatric medications, but I know a little bit. From being in a position of a psychotherapist, from spending many, many years sitting in on psychiatry appointments with clients via case management and outpatient clinical work and public mental health agencies. And this all of a sudden feeling relief and improvement is also a concern when somebody starts a medication, or often antidepressant. If they've been really depressed and been suicidal and then start a medication and feel an upswing, oftentimes, or it can be that is when they carry out their suicide plan, and we think, oh, they're doing better, they're taking medication now, they're feeling better, the medication is working great. And really that's also a time that is concerning. We need to stay connected to people during this sudden relief or improvement, and not just walk around assuming they're fine, they're great, they're good now, cool, like we don't have to do anything. Like, we have a responsibility as people to other people. At least that's what I think. And especially if there are people around you, however, in your sphere, whether they're acquaintances at the gym or coworkers or your dear friends and family, we need to have compassion for other people and their struggle. And the holidays is really a struggle for people. And so we need not turn away when somebody is feeling better and dilute ourselves to thinking this is great. If you are listening to this broadcast, then you know that is something that is a red flag that we need to check in about. So maybe just take some time to talk to that person about all of a sudden feeling relief and what that means for them. Okay, behavior cues. If a person engages in these behaviors, they are red flags. An increased use of drugs and alcohol, or starting to use drugs and alcohol. Withdrawing from activities, and that could be, extracurricular social activities, or it could be things like work and other responsibilities. Giving away prized possessions or things that are meaningful to them. Aggression, visiting or calling friends, family, loved ones to say goodbye. Sleeping too much or too little, or, like a change in a sleep pattern. Isolating themselves from others, otherwise acting in reckless behaviors, risk-taking things, not considering consequences of actions, not really caring about the consequences of their actions, and or behaviors in which they're looking for ways to kill themselves, i.e. searching for means. Means is, what are they going to use? How are they going to do it? And then do they have access to that thing? If somebody is thinking of killing themselves via vehicle or driving off something, do they have access to a vehicle and can they drive it by themselves? Is that possible? Then that person has access to the means in which to kill themselves. And we need to be mindful about that. Same if there is like another plan or seriously harming themselves via cutting or using a sharp object. Do they have access to those sharp objects? Do they have access to the ones that they're saying they're going to use? What do we do about that? Paying attention to these types of behaviors. Now, this might not be anything that they're saying. Remember, we talked about talk cues in the beginning. These are things that you see somebody do. They might not be talking about it. They might not be saying, hey, I'm calling everybody to say goodbye because I'm planning to kill myself. It might not be that clear, but they might engage in the behavior that looks like calling people and saying goodbye. This is what we need to pick up on, folks. And certainly, if this is somebody in your sphere, we need to pause and ask some questions. Okay, so increase use of drugs and alcohol, or starting to use drugs and alcohol, or moving to more illicit substances, or using more frequently, using on their own, particularly alcohol. I know alcohol, unfortunately, is celebrated a lot in this culture, and it's like real bad for you folks. Like, I get it. People are going to do what they're going to do. And this is the holiday time of year is maybe a time we're going to make excuses about excessive alcohol use, or people drinking more than normal, or people drinking on their own when they wouldn't normally. Those are red flags, folks. This is not normal behavior, even though it's been normalized in this culture. Anybody who is increasing their alcohol use or using on their own, or any sort of changes around that, needs to be a concern. Again, it could be really easy to say, oh, it's the holidays, people are celebrating. It's like, it's not great to be celebrating with drugs and alcohol, especially if they're into excess, or we are in, misuse and abuse stages of substances. Pay attention to those things. Don't sweep them under the rug. Talk about them. Ask somebody what that means, what's going on. If they notice they've increased their use, yeah, okay, these might be uncomfortable conversations, but that person is feeling real uncomfortable if they are thinking about killing themselves. Believe me, I have been in the one-to-one space when this was true and real and accurate and very active for individuals. I have had to do TDO assessments for individuals who are actively suicidal. They are in a lot of distress, folks. Like, it's not a fun experience that they are having. They are literally so miserable and feel so out of hope and options that this is what they're thinking about. So as uncomfortable it is for you to maybe address the topic, it's maybe going to be less uncomfortable for you to do that and help this person than the discomfort that person is already feeling. And often in this space, people are not going to reach out for help. It's also something we know, something we've seen. It's a trend. It's a pattern. They're not going to reach out and specifically say, hey, I'm suicidal, I need help. But they might be displaying some of these cues, some of these flags. This might be them sort of communicating that they need some help. They need some support. They would like somebody to be there for them. So pay attention to these things. Ask people about it. Most people who take their own life exhibit one or more of the warning signs of that I've listed here. And there's at least, 9 in each section. 9 talk cues, 9 mood cues, 9 behavior cues. So there's at least some of those things that you can look out for, one or more of those things, either through what they say or what they do. So it's not necessarily going to be very explicit and verbal, but these are the cues we can pick up on. And when you are concerned for a person, something to look for is a change, like I was saying, in behaviors or presence of entirely new behaviors, right? So this would be picking up a drug or alcohol habit when they didn't have one before, or increasing their use. This could be that moment of an upswing where they suddenly feel better. That's a change in behavior. If they start doing something brand new, right? It's something we need to look out for. And particularly if we've noticed somebody that has been depressed or sad or anxious or agitated prior to this change in behavior or entirely new behaviors, that's like extra red flag. New or changed behaviors is the biggest concern. And like I said, that's when it's most likely to happen, and particularly in that upswing of like a sudden improvement in things. But any sort of change behavior, like an uptick in drug or alcohol use, or starting to use when somebody wasn't using before, yeah, these are big concerns, right? These are some of the biggest indicators that somebody is serious about following through with their plan for hurting or killing themselves. And this is especially true if related to a lost, painful event, or recent adjustment or change. If any of these things have been recent, a loss, a painful event, or an adjustment or change, and that could be a new relationship, a new baby, a move, a new job. Some of those things may be considered positive, but they're really stressful sometimes for people. And if any of those things have happened already, and then we're seeing some of these cues, big red flag, folks, big red flag. And we need to maybe pause and check in with the people that we care about if we are seeing this in them. Okay, I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't have some resources for people about this. I wish I could. The black line number is blocked off, but I will post all this information in the Circle of Friends Club group on LinkedIn, so you guys can access these hotlines and this information, especially where things are cut off. I want people to have those numbers. So if you are concerned about someone, you can reach out to one of these resources. They don't just have to. You can call one of these numbers and say, hey, I'm concerned about somebody. And they can maybe walk you through some stuff, tell you what you can do next. Or if you're with a person and this is how they're experiencing, then you can sit with them while they call one of these numbers. These are ways that you can show up and support. This is a very difficult thing for somebody to navigate on their own. And, they may not be capable if they're really not in a good mental or emotional space. And so your support, even in calling one of these numbers, can be really helpful. So the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline is 988. You can dial 988 from anywhere and get somebody on the line. There is a Black, Brown, Native, and Muslim support. It's called the Black Line. And the number, I'll read it off and then I will post it. But let me read it off to you guys for anybody that's listening. The website is www.callblackline.com. That's CALLBLACKLINE.com. Or you can dial 1-800-604-5841. 1-800-604-5841. The Trans Lifeline is peer support for individuals that identify as trans. The Trevor Project is support for youth that identifies LGBTQIA+. And those websites and phone numbers you can call or text or here. And again, I will post them. And the Substance Abuse Support Helpline, SAMHSA line, also has a text option and a website, and it can help you find treatment if you're struggling with substance use or substance abuse. Okay, I have all those listed again. Okay, here we go. Look, I put it in there again. Okay, the 988 Black Line, Trans Lifeline, Trevor Project, SAMHSA number, and the final one that I've added here is the NAMI hotline, which is the National Association for Mental Illness. So it's a mental health chat support. Of course, all these have a website, a phone number, and some have a text. And again, I will post these in the Circle of Friends page where the show was supposed to be today, but had some difficulties getting it up and going. It's what I have for looking at talk cues, mood cues, behavior cues that essentially could prevent suicide. Who am I? So I'm not on my regular show. I am Sarah O'Brien. I've been a licensed psychotherapist for over 15 years. I am a vetted and verified trauma-informed professional. And I offer trauma-informed coaching and consulting and have a variety of roles there, including Chief Mental Health Officer of the Circle of Friends Club. This is the Healing Hour and is normally hosted over there. And we had some technical difficulties this morning, so I'm hosting over here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Check back to the original post for this show today for those hotline numbers. I will also post the hotline numbers in the comment section at YouTube/at Timeless Therapist, which is my YouTube channel. Please subscribe and you will be able to get all the information there. And if for some reason that you can't find it and you really need it, just reach out to me via DM and I will drop it to you personally so that you have those hotline numbers and you can post them or have them available wherever you are. I'm not going to be here next week because I will be on vacation. And for Circle of Friends Club, it's important that I announce next Friday and Saturday. And Sunday probably. So the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Oh, look at that. Friday the 13th is next Friday, guys. The 13th, 14th, and 15th will be another Freedom Fight Expo. We have 10 speakers lined up. It's going to be great. I will not be in attendance. I'll have to watch the replay. But, my partner, Jason Wilson, will be there hosting everybody. And you'll have to check the newsletter that was dropped yesterday to find out more about the Freedom Fight Expo and who will be speaking this month. And I hope that I see a bunch of you guys there. And I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you learned a little something. Feel free to drop me a message and let me know how this landed for you. I will see you guys again on December 18th because next week I'm on vacation. But I'll miss you. Watch some of my old shows, drop me some messages. I'll be happy to get them when I